Ludwig von Beethoven. I would argue that if aliens visited Earth and asked to hear what is the best that we humans have ever produced, the best thing in the whole wide world, I think a Beethoven symphony just might be what they're looking for. But this is not a symphony. This is chamber music, a trio to be specific, violin, viola, and cello. I love this music. Yes, it's somewhat aristocratic, maybe even a little snobby. Not for everyone, but it is gorgeous. And this particular recording, this particular performance, I should say, features one of the greatest violinists in the history of the world, Jascha Heifetz. Jascha, Russian-born. I think he emigrated to America as a teenager before the Soviet Union era. Lived a good long time, I want to say into his 80s. Just a wonderful, wonderful player, and it really comes through on this particular record. This is the Opus 9, and there are 3 trios that were composed. This is the number 1 and the number 3 trio. The number 1, I think, is the best. It's almost orchestral in the way it comes across, which is pretty amazing given there's only 3 musicians involved here. This is a nice one. So let's take a look at this, see what we have. Oh, first of all, I should say this is a mono recording. I know there's a lot of guys out there that, they think stereo is always better. I would argue that's not always the case, particularly from records from this era. This one was released in 1958, which would have been just around the time that you would have had mono versions and stereo versions. Stereo was just really getting a hold in the market at that point. But I assure you, the recording engineers, the mastering engineers, the tape transfer folks, whoever was working in the studio, they put their best people on the mono recordings. It wasn't for a decade at least that stereo began to overtake the mono stuff. So don't overlook the mono, I would recommend. Sometimes it is the best sounding recording. It's nice to have at least a mono switch on your stereo system, be it on your preamp or on your phono stage. That does help, otherwise you kind of get 2 recordings, one mono through one speaker, one mono through another. You want to have that center image. Maybe you can see behind me here, we actually have 2 turntables. One is dedicated to mono with a mono cartridge. That's another way to go about it. Most guys would say, though, a mono switch is all you need. Stick with a standard stereo cartridge. Let's take a closer look, shall we? This is not the original inner. This is not an Angel Records. That's okay, we're going to replace that anyway. Don't you just love Nipper? Isn't he just great? Love that kind of burgundy color there. Take a close look at this. Wow, this has got some ancient fingerprints on it. It's been around for a while. It looks in fairly good shape, though. I'm pleased to see that. Not a lot of damage or issues. It is dirty, no doubt. But I think we can do a good job on this one. What do you say? Let's get to it. Let's clean this record. When Beethoven composed these pieces, he was about 28 years old at the time. He thought it was the best music he had ever composed. That and the quality of these recordings and Jascha Heifetz, I think it deserves a little bit of a special treatment. And given how old this record is, we're going to lean heavily on some enzymatic formulas today. Let's talk about our approach. The first thing we're going to start with is this one. This is from a company called Audio Intelligence Vinyl Solutions, AIVS. This is their number 15 formula. It's a good record cleaning fluid mixed with an enzymatic formula. Nice surfactant, it covers the record well. It's one of those record cleaning fluids that if you just had to have one, this just might be it. But then we're going to follow that up with a pure enzymatic solution. Again, you might have seen when we did the close-ups of the groove, this is not a particularly filthy record. It doesn't have a lot of crap on it, but that dirt that is on it is very, very old. It's been there for a long, long time. that's why we're focusing on enzymatics here. Then of course we'll have our pure water rinse. We use this to wash off our brushes. We will have separate wands and columns for each of the 3 stages, and we will finish off with the ultrasonic machine. Okay, I think that's everything. Oh, no, it isn't. Ossange brushes. Of course, we have 3, one for each of the processes. And in between, we use a nice soft toothbrush to clean the velvet lips on the columns. Let's get going. Some would argue that after a first application of a record cleaning fluid, before you would go to an enzymatic solution, you might want to do a pure water rinse. There's an argument to be made for that, but in this case, I'm not going to do that because the pure enzymatic solution has no surfactant in it whatsoever, and it'll tend to sort of bead up in the middle of the record. So by using a record cleaning fluid first that has surfactant in it, and not rinsing it, there'll be a trace of surfactant left on the vinyl, and that will help it spread out. We want that to happen so that when we leave it soak for 4 or 5 minutes, something like that, it'll be covering the entirety of the record surface. That's the reason for not rinsing after that first step. See you in 5. As you can see, after the enzymatic soak is through, I just bring it off the surface of the vinyl with a suction machine, not using any brushes to agitate. What do you think, fellas? Final thoughts on Beethoven's trios. Oh my goodness, perhaps the finest chamber music ever recorded. I mean that sincerely. Just gorgeous, gorgeous music. And Jaffa Heifetz, the reputation that he earned as one of the finest violinists of our time is well deserved. Absolutely gorgeous, highly recommended. Also, from an audiophile perspective, this is just the stuff of dreams. I mean, you want to be able to hear the type of rosin they're using on their bows. This is the kind of recording that can do that. But at the same time, it's musical, it's full, it's just everything that it should be. Our cleaning process, our focus on enzymes, and because of the age of the record and the age of the dirt on the record, paid off. Crystal clear, lovely, lovely stuff. Well, highly recommended. That's the best way to put this one. So let's go clean another record.